I'm a senior here at Newton North, and I have cochlear implants. How many of you have heard of a cochlear implant? Just show of hands. Wow. Entire room. Okay. Didn't expect that. Today we'll be teaching you about the cochlear implant, how it works, how people benefit from them, and most importantly, how they change people's lives for the better. So let's start off with the basics. Alright, so if you were to recognize a cochlear implant on somebody, this is what it looks like. This is me wearing my implant on a daily basis. As you can see, I have Harry Potter stickers all over it because I'm a huge Harry Potter fan. But you can see there's like the speech processor, which is the outer part on top, the magnet, which is kind of hidden, but that's how you recognize it on a person. So yeah, it's one of my favorite pictures. Okay, the definition of a cochlear implant is a surgical device that allows a deaf person to hear. Now I'm going to have Cochlear America's Network Awareness Manager, Chris Hansen, come up and share about how a cochlear implant works with us. So, thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Jessica. Good to be here. My name is Chris Hansen. I work for Cochlear Americas. We are the company that makes, one of the companies that makes cochlear implants and Baha implants. I am a Baha implant recipient and have worn my implant on my right side for about 5 years. The picture you see up on the screen right now really fascinates me, and I only saw it about a month ago. That is basically the first cochlear implant. Our first patient was implanted with an internal cochlear implant, and when that patient wanted to hear, he went to the scientist's laboratory that developed the implant, had it plugged in to that machine, and he could hear at that point. So obviously we've come a whole heck of a long way from a wall-based processor to something that you can wear on your ear now. And again, another fascinating photo to me on my right, your left, is the circuit board for the first cochlear implant. On the other side is the chip that now goes in the processor that's smaller than the fingernail on my small finger. And the interesting part is the chip now can do 1,000, 10,000, 100,000. I don't know for sure. More processes than the first one can. Always in the hearing industry, smaller is better, and that's what we're continuing to strive for. This slide is actually outdated. We are just released at the end of 2013, the 9th generation cochlear implant processor. If you look all the way over to 1983, the processors in 1983 were worn on your belt with a wire that went up to your ear, and just come a whole heck of a long way to just a small little hearing device that you wear around your ear on the 2009 side of the slide. Next, please. Let's take a minute just to talk about how does hearing work. Hearing is energy. It's an acoustical energy that our outer ear, our pinna, this little thing on the side of our head, picks up, and it funnels the acoustical energy into our ear canal. The acoustical energy, when it hits our eardrum, changes from acoustical energy to a mechanical energy. It starts to vibrate the eardrum, and it vibrates the 3 little bones, the 3 smallest bones in our body on the other side of the eardrum. It becomes a mechanical energy that stimulates the cells in the cochlea, the middle ear, the inner ear, excuse me. When those cells are stimulated, the little hair-like follicles that run the length of the shell-shaped organ, those hairs turn from a mechanical energy to an electrical energy. The electrical energy goes up the auditory nerve, and it stimulates our brain, and we hear. People think you hear with your ears. We don't hear with our ears. They're the mechanism that lets our brain help us hear. Hearing aids, traditional hearing aids, work in much the same way that this microphone works. It makes things louder. So your hearing aid over your ear picks up sound, it picks up somebody talking, it amplifies the sound, and you hear in basically the same way. You have the follicles in your inner ear stimulating the auditory nerve with more power, and you're able to hear at that point. Cochlear implants are totally different. It's a totally different way of hearing. We have a processor that's over our ear that picks up sound, it picks up speech, and it changes the acoustical energy, and it changes the speech, and it codes it. The old, X's and O's, what is it from the old computer programming? And it codes it. It sends the code from an external processor to an internal implant. And it sends the code through your hair, through the skin, by way of an FM radio signal. The internal processor picks up that code, goes down a wire and into the cochlea, where a band of electrodes stimulate the cochlea and stimulate the auditory nerve so that the person with the cochlear implant can hear. So again, this totally different way of hearing. There are three components to a cochlear implant. On my right is the implant itself, the internal part of the implant. It's surgically implanted by a surgeon. It's implanted right behind the ear on the poor hearing side. And then the wires that you see are wired through the ear to the cochlea, and they are implanted. They're surgically like the thread going through a needle, going into the cochlea, and they circle around the shell-shaped cochlea. In the middle is the external processor. I wish it was a darker color so we could all see it. It goes around the ear with a magnet that attaches to the internal processor, and then on the far side, cochlear implant can be programmed, and you can work through the programs two different ways: buttons on the top, as well as a remote control. If you don't want to be pressing your processor, you can have the remote control in your pocket and can press the buttons as you need to change from one program to another. When I talk about programs, we have everyday program, for instance, on the processor. So if you're in an environment like this that's relatively quiet and somebody's just asking me a question and there's not a whole heck of a lot of noise, I would keep the processor in an everyday program. If I went into a restaurant and I'm sitting with my wife and there's all kinds of background noise, there is a noise reduction program that helps the recipient get rid of all the background noise and concentrate on sound waves that are coming from right in front of you. So the remote control and the programs available in the cochlear implant are just amazing, and allows those with poor hearing not only to hear, but hear better in difficult hearing environments. How does it work? The internal part of the processor is placed under the skin. What you're looking at now is you're looking at through the young lady's hair and skin underneath. It's implanted against the skull. You can see the two wires are going down underneath and into the cochlea. And then the external processor is put over the ear, and the two are connected by way of a magnet. A magnet on the inside and a magnet on the outside at the end of the coil. "25 years ago, if you got a cochlear implant, it was basically to help you lip read. That's not the case anymore. We'll talk about it a little bit more in the next slide. But 25 years ago, a cochlear implant user was able to get about 20% word recognition. So you're sitting in a sound booth and your audiologist says high school. You repeat back high school. Restaurant, you repeat back restaurant. A cochlear implant user 25 years ago is only going to understand about 20 of those words. Today's cochlear implant users, we can expect that they're going to recognize 80% of short sentences. So instead of the word restaurant, you hear something like, the boy has a red ball. And we're going to expect for 80% of the words in that sentence that a cochlear implant recipient is going to be able to understand. And I'll even go a step further. We've done the same tests introducing noise into the environment. So you hear the boy has a red ball with background noise involved. And our expectation at this point is that the cochlear implant user is going to be able to understand up to 70%, maybe a little bit more percentage of the words that are being said in noisy situations. So just in 25 years, you can see how the technology has come such a long way. Not only in reducing the size of the processor itself, but in the actual work it does, allowing the person with poor hearing to hear. Cochlear implant surgery, at this point, it is absolute routine surgery. I have people ask me, is it brain surgery? And it's not. We don't get anywhere near the brain. It is a ear operation. It's done under general anesthesia. You come into the hospital in the morning, and for the most part, you leave that day. It takes about 2 hours. There is a myth that you have to shave your whole head to get a cochlear implant, shave all the hair in your head. Perhaps years ago, they shaved a good portion of it. They just don't do that anymore, maybe the size of a $50. Small incision. Again, in the old days, there was a big C-shaped scar under your hair. That's just no longer there anymore. Everything is, the surgical techniques have advanced to the point where that just isn't necessary. And not only aren't there very many major complications, there really are very few minor complications involved with cochlear implant surgery. Myths about candidacy. Years ago, cochlear implants were designed for deaf people, to help deaf people hear. But with the advancement of the technology, we've come to realize that there are a lot of people out there who can hear sound, but they can't necessarily hear words. They can hear the siren, they can hear the roar of a crowd like this if you were all talking, but they couldn't hear and understand what I'm saying. So the criteria for a cochlear implant has come to the point where you might be able to hear, and you might be able to hear sound fairly well, but you can't understand words. And so that's becoming the new criteria. So instead of being deaf, a lot of cochlear implant folks today have a severe hearing loss or a profound hearing loss. They're not quite totally deaf. Only children can benefit. Older patients aren't good candidates. Again, they're myths. In today's day and age, parents know fairly quickly if their child has a hearing loss and are eligible for a cochlear implant. They can make the decision based on what their family wants at that point. Old people, folks that have heard their whole life and are losing their hearing because of old age, also benefit in exactly the same way that young children do. Performance myths. Cochlear implants aid only reading lips. Again, that was true 25 years ago. It's simply not true today. Hear environmental sounds, can't use the phone. Again, it's just not true. I talk to cochlear implant recipients daily on the phone. They understand words. They grasp words. Cochlear implants are covered by Medicare, Medicaid insurance, and because of that, over the last number of years, most private insurance companies also cover cochlear implants. And I get to turn it back over.